So the other day I was scrolling through Instagram, like some of us are apt to do, I think, and I saw a picture of this knife. And I think the first picture I saw of it was a Jersey knife guy, Pete, had this on his Instagram. And I thought, well, that's a Kershaw Culpepper that I've never seen before. And I already have a Kershaw Culpepper, but I'll talk about why I'm more excited about this one in a little bit here. But the Kershaw Culpepper is a Kershaw made slip joint knife that is supposed to be a bit like a Barlow, although the bolster is not quite as long as a standard Barlow. So some people will say, that's not a Barlow, it's something else. But it's very similar to the A-Right knives in that way. Some people don't call the A-Right knives Barlows. I just call them Barlows because that's what they call them. And it's easier, and I'm not super anal about my patterns. And the Barlow is like my favorite one, and I'm not super strict about what is and what isn't a Barlow. The only knife that I have that is called a Barlow that is certainly not a Barlow is the Boker Barlow Prime, which is not a Barlow. That's a jackknife. But anyway, Kershaw Culpepper, Chinese made slip joint, pretty decently well put together. There is a slight, you know, uh, cover fit problem there, it looks like. But other than that, it looks pretty good. They use some sort of filler, it looks like, there to fill up a gap, maybe. Centering is not perfect, but it's very good. In fact, it's actually looking pretty center now that I look at it straight on like this. Okay, centering's pretty good. Blade is this clip point here. The action isn't amazing, but it's pretty good. Believe this is D2 steel. Does it say? Yes, D2 steel. High polish, so it's a pain in the ass to film or take pictures of, which you guys know I love so much when knives are like this. Super shiny blade picks up all your fingerprints, as you can tell here. Uh, but yeah, super pointy clip blade. The action on it is okay. It's not amazing. Close action's really good. The open action could be better, but it's decent enough. Let's do the push test here. Yeah, it flips back open, so it's good enough. Back spring. It's got a bit of like a long pull here. Not super fancy or anything, probably just because it's cheaper to do than trying to do like a nail neck. But interesting blade shape on a knife like this. It kind of sweeps up a little bit into that swedge there on the clip point. And it's an interesting blade shape. The one thing that I will say about these is that they put jimping on the back of the blade here because I think Kershaw's used to being, a modern blade manufacturer. So, they want you to put your finger there to support to cut with. But the problem with that is then you're pushing the blade down on a slip joint. You really ideally want your thumb to be back here or have your whole hand wrapped around the knife like that. With a slip joint, you don't really want to be pushing down on that blade because that's how you accidentally close the knife and cut yourself. So that's not a great design on a slip joint knife. But besides the point, this knife is like $30 or something like that. And I prefer it over the jig bone one. And I'll show you why here in a minute. But I made a close up of this red bone, smooth red bone, nickel silver bolster. The shield is like this bomb shield. It looks like it's stamped out of something fairly cheap. So I don't know if it's aluminum or what exactly it is, but it looks fine. It could look better. Of course, it's glued in. And the reason why I like this one more than the other one that I have is the other one that I have has jig bone, which I like, but the jig bone is very very obviously machined. But the bolsters on this are like some sort of weird, like copper. And I don't know if they're solid copper. They're probably just some sort of like copper wash or something, which looks strange with a handle like this, I have to say. So not my favorite. I much prefer the nickel silver um, because it looks more traditional and everything. The copper's kind of weird. But yeah, same blade steel, same D2 blade steel. I think the action's pretty similar. I think I picked up this knife last year at one point. The action on this one's worse. So the action on this one's actually better too. But I really do like the red smooth bone. I think it looks good. I much prefer the nickel silver bolsters just because it's more traditional when it comes to knives. That being said, this isn't a to the book traditional knife because it's kind of modernized. It's got a weird blade shape. It's got a stop pin down in there. You guys can see that instead of a kick, this part of the blade here rests in that pin, which prevents blade wrap, which is nice, which is when your blade hits your back spring. So it helps prevent that, which is nice, but not really the traditional way of making a pocket knife. Big old lanyard hole if you want to put a lanyard on it. This knife has a lanyard hole as well. Um, Probably not put a lanyard hole on it. This isn't a huge knife, but it is bigger than a standard Barlow by quite a bit here. So keep that in mind. But a decent little knife, and like I said, I think I paid like $30 for it. So I mean, it's affordable enough to justify buying it, just to check it out. Especially if you're somebody who just wants to, I don't know, you've thought about getting into traditional pocket knives, but you're not ready quite to make the leap to buy like a really nice pocket knife, like a Great Eastern Cutlery, or maybe trying to find one of these old like Remingtons or Winchesters or whatever. For $30, you can try out a slip joint, which is a good way to get into it. And I think probably the way that a lot of people get into it is buying these more affordable slip joint knives. But anyway, Kershaw Culpepper in smooth red bone with nickel silver bolsters, which I much prefer over these weird copper wash, whatever they are, bolsters. Um, yeah, much preferred over my other Culpepper. And I think it looks a lot nicer and it's a lot more elegant. Maybe the jigging on this is just ugly, because it's so like machined, in my opinion. But anyway, that's it for today on the Kershaw Culpepper in red smooth bone. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you in the next one.